everyone, how are you all doing? My microphone's having a droopy moment. Please, whether you're with me live or if you're watching a little bit later on the replay, do give me a thumbs up, do pop me a note in the comments so I know you were present with me as well. Hello Francis. Francis is first in the house tonight. So who has done some bead embroidery this week? I don't know if Sue's with us yet, but I know Sue has certainly been doing some bead embroidery and been posting it in our sister group, Beaders of Beads by Verchiel. Hello, Trisha can hear and see me. Brilliant. Hello, Carol. So tonight what we're going to be looking at is how you add that extra special touch to your pieces, your bead embroidery pieces, with some edging. So before many of my tutorials, what I like to do is either revisit previous tutorials that I've done, and also to do a little bit of research as well, just to see if there's anything else new that I can bring to the table. And I'm pleased to say that I have got some new little bits and pieces and top tips that I'd like to share with you along the way. Hello, Jackie. Trisha is beading mini bees. Fantastic. Is that from the stamp, the bee stamp, one of our bee stamps? Right, so I think we'll get stuck straight in and actually show you some samples about what the edging is and what difference does it make as well. Hello, Linda. Right, so let's just bring this round. Now I've actually cut out these shapes so that I can do you some demonstrations on these. Mini bees with the stamp, fantastic. Okay, so this is one of my mini hedgehog bead embroidery kits that you can find on my website, Beads by Verchiel. Now, this one doesn't have an edging, but this one does. And it actually looks quite a bit bigger, but it's got this neat little edging around the outside, which is done with a different stitch, which is called brick stitch. Don't be put off by all of these jargon words, because it isn't as complicated as it sounds. Now, this is one of my holly kits, and I've actually edged that as well. It just adds another, it's almost like it adds another level onto the bottom. And if you stitch it using this technique, you will barely see any stitching at all on the back. Now, this is again one using a basic brick stitch. And again, you can't really see anything on the back of that at all. And it's nice and deep as well. You've also got these little earrings as well. You can brick stitch on pretty small pieces. Now this is one that hasn't had a brick stitch, so you can actually see at the side. I mean, I would actually have coloured that in anyway, but that doesn't have a brick stitch edging. So you can just see the difference. This one doesn't either. So we're probably going to add to that as we go along this evening. So let's pop some of these in the corner, shall we? So if people are joining us for the first time, they can actually see what sort of things we're doing here. Hello, Trisha. Right, let me show you some of the samples. So that's traditional brick stitch. Now if you pretend that you've done your bead embroidery on here and you're edging the stitch, so I'm going to demonstrate to you on a plain piece of bead embroidery foundation, and then I'm going to go to one of my pieces and actually show you how you do it that way. So that's basic brick stitch, and then if we rotate around, you've actually got a brick stitch, but it's with a picot edge. Hopefully you can see that okay. And if we move a bit further round, instead of a seed bead on the picot edge, we've actually got a crystal. So you've got lots of different techniques that we're going to learn. Now the other thing I thought as well is you can actually make frills through the brick stitch. Now that might be an easier way of doing something like this, where you actually have them coming out of the bottom through the brick stitch. So that's what we're going to do today. The other thing I saw is with these little having the long ones, perhaps like bugle beads, I saw some bead embroidered, not my kind of thing, but I thought was really clever, some bead embroidered glass cabochon eyes, and they made the eyelashes with these long things with using bugle beads, and I just thought that was ever so clever. So we're going to use this disc, so we're going to pretend like this that you've actually got seed beads around it already. But we'd love to know how many of you have actually done any brick stitch edging. So I'm going to be using some Nymo thread, and oh, have I got any scissors at hand? Oh, that wasn't very sensible, was it? Oh, I do. Hello, Saba. She's it's nice to be joining back after a long break. It's nice to have you back, Saba, and I hope you're doing okay. So I've got my Nymo thread. It's always a good idea to wax your thread as well. This is beading wax. You can see how well that's used. I use the grooves to actually pull through the thread. I'm using a size 10 beading needle. Now, whilst you can, we talked last week about using Miyuki Delicas, size 15s. Now, Miyuki Delicas will work, but I don't think they'll sit quite as nice because they're more of a tubular shape. So I'm actually using size 10 check seed beads, but again the size 11s will do just fine. So I'm actually doing sort of a bit of a quadruple knot there. Now if this is your beaded piece, I would tie a knot as we've just done and cut the sort of tail off really short, but don't cut the knot. So what you would do is you would go into your beading like so, and your knot would sit in between the beads. So we're going to pretend. Okay, so we're going to go about 2 mils from the edge and push that in, and then from the back I'm just going to bring up from back to front like so. So you've just done 1 stitch at the back, 1 stitch front to back and 1 stitch from back to front. Now as we're going, you'll be able to see if you get too close to the edge of the foundation, what will actually happen is when you pull it, the stitch will just rip through the end of the foundation. So that's just one thing to bear in mind. So generally we start off with 2 beads. So lay those 2 beads on the side, and where the last bead sits, push your needle into the foundation, again 1 to 2 millimeters, pull it through. Now you haven't yet completed that particular step. What you're going to do is you're going to go under that particular bead and up, under and up. Now I'm just going to actually lower this down. Bear with me a second, because I want you to get as much detail as you can on that. Now can you see that this one on the left is sitting a bit funny? So what I'd be inclined to do before you do any more is your thread's coming out here, stitch down the other side and just anchor that down. Okay, and it just helps. So I'm going to put a little stitch in the back and go back up through that second bead. It's not obligatory, but it just helps with getting that to sit properly. But if you could just let me know if that all, you can see that okay. Let's just slide this way. So I'm going to add a bead. So you're just going to position your needle so that your bead just sits by the side of that. Now just be careful again that it's not too close to the actual top. So you've done your stitch, and then we're going to go underneath that seed bead and pull up. That's clearer. Oh, that's good. So we're adding another seed bead. You're just going to position your needle to the distance where that seed bead will sit. Going to push that through to the back of your foundation, and then from underneath we're going to go underneath that seed bead and pull up. Now if you watch my previous tutorial, now a couple of tips. It is a really good idea to, you could even colour your thread with permanent markers, you know, if you haven't got the right colour thread, but it does actually help to actually have a good selection of coloured threads so that this stitch on the outside doesn't show up so much. So popping a seed bead on, about 1 to 2 mil from the side, pull it through to the back, and then we're going to hook underneath that seed bead and go up. So I'm going to do that for a little bit. And hi Jane, 3 ankle biters still with me, so I'll be dipping in and out. Right, so again underneath. So just do this for a little bit and then we'll look at the other methods. But thoughts? Okay, so that sits right on the edge, and we will actually transfer this as well into, you know, okay, that's all okay, having a look at the method, but you know, how does that actually look? How does it feel when you're actually attaching it to a project? Whoops. So I think you've got the gist of that now. So what we're going to do now is have a look at our little picot stitch. So the picot stitch is these here and these here. Now what I would say is, if you're doing your picot stitch, obviously we've got one on there already, so you'd actually start off with 3 beads, but we're just going to actually add another 2. So instead of adding another one, we add another 2, and then because you want it to, the middle one to point up, what you do is you only space it in the same way, so as if that bead is sitting right next to it. Okay, so we push through to the back, and then we're going to go under and up through the last bead. and that creates your little picot. We do the same again. We add 2. Add 2, just position your needle as if you're just adding 1 bead, and then go under and up through the last one. Isn't that so lovely? Really, really like that. So we're adding 2. You only space out as if you're adding 1. Otherwise, if you space out for the 3, it'll just be flat. You want to actually get that little top seed bead to sit out. Now, Carol says, when you come back up, are you going through the bead or just the gap by the thread? You're actually going through the bead. So I'll show you. So we're spacing as if 1 bead. Okay, so we're going under and up through that last bead. And that's the same for the single one as well. Now that was a good thing to show you. Did you see how that instantly clicked out? What happened there was I got too close to the edge, and that's what happens, is it'll just basically pull straight through. But I just think that's so cool. I really love that. So, you know, when I do the tutorials, you can never ever know too much. You know, you can never know all of it. So, and I like to do a little bit of research and see what other people are doing. So that's your picot stitch. So that's your plain one. That's your picot stitch. I'm getting a bit hooked. I'm just going to do another one. There you go. I just think that would be so pretty on the edging. Now we're going to have a look at, right, so let's do that picot, but instead of the middle one being a seed bead, let's have a look at the middle one being a crystal. So the middle bead is going to be a 3mm silver fire polished. So you'd work the same principle. So if you imagine that bead is your first one, that's number 2, that will sit in the middle, that's number 3. So again, position it so it's only 1 seed bead width away, push from front to back, and to complete that, what you want to do is go under and up through that last bead. Again, you might want to do alternates, like for example, if you didn't want them quite as close as that, what you could do is you could make the next one a plain one, i.e. seed beads. So I tend to go at an angle, yeah? And go under and up. So you've got a crystal and then you've got a seed bead. So I'm going to actually do a crystal one next. Only a seed bead width away. Under and up. So let's do a seed bead picot this time. So there you go. Now that one is the one where you're just doing a crystal on every one, and this one is a crystal on every other. No problem, Linda, you take care. Linda's got to shoot off. And you can make the, you know, crystals bigger. So if you've got a bigger piece that you want to border, obviously you can do that. So I'm going to do some plain ones now, because let's do plain ones in a different colour, because I want to show you how you can actually add tassels. But to add the tassels, you actually want to do singles first, because otherwise you'll just undo the work. So I'm just doing singles. And like I say, when you could use tassels is you could actually basically have the tassels coming out of your brick stitch at the back, rather than actually having it out of your bead embroidery piece like in this one. So the tassels would be coming out from underneath rather than on the top. It's actually a really, really enjoyable stitch. Right, so I am just going to stitch down to the next one, and then I'm going to stitch up this one. So when we're talking tassels, we're talking these. So that might equate to perhaps something like this. Absolutely, I love that idea. Trisha was saying, "Oh, make a loop." Trisha, what a brilliant idea. Let's do that. Let's do that on the second one. We'll do the first one as a plain. You do the frill, tassel, you should call it tassel rather than a frill, basically as long as you want it to be. You could, if you want it quite sort of stagnant, you could always use bugle beads on there as well. So I would have one bead before you come back up, separate that, let's just move that away from the writing on the screen, and then I'd go all the way back up through those, back down through the same one that you came up through, and there you've got your tassel. Now Trisha's idea, which I think is a fabulous idea, is you could make a loop tassel. So again, we've actually gone through right through the middle of that seed bead. So let's actually just make a nice little loop. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll just do seed beads on this one, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just have to take my word for it for a second. Hi Carol, thank you for joining. Right, so you could make a loop, and what you could always do is, I think you'd probably want to share the same first bead. So separate all of that from the first bead you added, and then go back up through that bead. And you've got a loop. How cool is that? So you've got lots of different variations. So just to recap, before we actually look and see how does this translate into your piece. So you've got just a basic one here, basic brick stitch. You've got the picot with seed beads. You've got the picot using crystals. And then you've got either a straight tassel or a loop tassel going through your brick stitch. Which one's your favourite? What do you fancy having a go at? So let's just bank that for a second. Where should we put that you can see on view there? There you go. Let's put his feet in the picture. Right, I'm just going to grab some more thread. And what we'll do next is we'll have a look at this one, and we'll look and see, okay, so how does that translate into adding this to your piece? I just think it really adds a nice professional touch. Now you'll be able to see that on this one, oh, that's terrible, isn't it? Trust me to pick the one that I didn't back very well, but anyway, we should probably cover it with this. You know, we'll cover it with a brick stitch. Sometimes it's better to actually keep a slight border because it's a little bit easier to actually get to your brick stitch on there. So we're going to actually tie sort of a triple knot. So I'd say do it as normal, add the backing, cut that down. So you've just got a very small knot, and then we're going to come in at an angle. Would help if you can see. Come in at an angle. I wouldn't use this colour thread, however it's going to be easier for you to see. So that knot is just going to sit inside, so if it was the right colour you wouldn't see that. Now I'm going to use, because you wouldn't be able to see purple, I'm going to use silver edging. So I would start off, so let's start off with the first two. So you'd lay that to one side, push that up a little bit, and then you'd go from the front of the foundation to the back, like so. And then you'd come under and up. Now what you could always do is just do a stitch between the two rather than going back through. That'll just help it to sit better. There you go. And then you'd continue your edging. Now if we're going to do the picot edging, let's do that with, let's see how it looks with crystals, shall we? We'll do every other as a crystal, and we'll see how that translates into a piece. So go. So your first one is that one there. That's your second one, and your third one. But you only want them a seed bead apart. So go from the front to the back, and then we're going to go underneath and up. And then the next one we're going to do is just a plain seed bead one. So I'm adding 2 seed beads. You only go 1 seed bead width away from the previous bead. Everybody following me so far? And then we're going to go under that seed bead and up. liking that. I'm really liking that. So again, one seed bead apart. Oh, does anybody else find that your work just gets, your needle and thread just gets stuck around everything? But pop me a comment, let me know how you're finding it, how are you following it, or is it one of those things that you need to sort of get your piece and actually try it yourself? So I'm just alternating between plain seed bead and a crystal, because otherwise I think it would just overcrowd your piece a little bit. Isn't that so yummy? I really like that. I have to confess, other than doing that little sample piece, because I had a little practice earlier on today just to make sure I could actually demonstrate it to you, I haven't actually done the picot edging before with the crystals, but I think I'm rather liking that, and I think it puts a very different slant on your piece. Need to have a go at it. Yeah, I'm the same. I can watch things, but they don't really sink in until I'm actually doing them myself. So it's underneath and up. Also, it's another way of actually making your piece look a bit bigger. I mean, it's not, this is a ruby and zoisite cabochon, one of my favourites. I love ruby and zoisite. They do vary in colour, but I do like, you know, the deep colours with the pinks. And whilst it's quite a small cabochon, doing this picot edging does actually make your piece and your cabochon look a lot bigger than it actually really is. Now I'm guessing with, now Trisha mentioned about doing loops. Now I'm guessing really if you wanted loops with the picot, what you could always do is actually have your loops come in through the side of the bead instead. Hope that makes sense. But this is not taking long at all. But tell me your thoughts. Do you like the look of it? I'm quite enjoying myself here. It's very relaxing. Nearly stitched through my finger then. That's not good, is it? I need some more crystals. You like the picot? It's really nice, isn't it? And there's always something new. Whoops, too close to the edge there, that popped out. There's always something new that people are thinking of as well. And yesterday, I don't know how many of you saw our group live yesterday in Beaders of Beads by Verchiel, but we were talking about how you get your January mojo back. Now for Frances, she finds that January is the month that she really naturally gets inspired, but for a lot of people January is a month where perhaps, you know, the weather's not great outside, it's making you feel maybe a little bit tired and not feeling like doing anything. And we talked about how you could get yourself motivated. Now I find YouTube is such a wonderful platform that you can just take yourself into, you know, if you're doing something, maybe you're making, I've added too many there. You could even do a 5 picot as well. Sorry, I went off at a tangent there. But, you know, you could be sitting and doing something at the same time that doesn't require too much concentration, and just have it on in the background and see if there's anything that grabs you. So keep going. It does really frame the piece. I'm glad you like it as much as I do, and I don't think it would actually, I mean, this is quite a small piece. I did this was the demonstration piece that we did a few weeks ago. Do you know what I love about this as well? Do you know when you're doing a picot, not actually a picot around the outside, but a picot around through your bead embroidery, it can buckle, and I don't always like the way you've got some that sit forward, some that sit back. And I tell you what I like about this, doing this as the edging, is it's just, it flows. It's flat and it flows. And can you imagine if you've got a really sort of, if you've invested in getting yourself perhaps, you know, a fabulous cabochon. I mean, my favourite cabochons are the carved labradorite. So say you've gotten yourself this wonderful cabochon, and you just want to add that little extra wow factor to it, then I think this is certainly one way of doing that. I might as well carry on because we've still got plenty of time. But is there anybody that has either been motivated from the tutorials to pick up their bead embroidery again, or they've never tried it before and it's inspired you to either do it or to give it a go? There we go. Nearly there. Let's just take stock of that. There you go. So these are Czech metallic silver size 10 seed beads. So all the seed beads that I'm using and used are all Czechoslovakian beads. And I think the silver just makes it pop as well, doesn't it? Getting closer. Jane says she needs a few more hours in the day, plenty of motivation and not enough hands. I know, this is it. Does anybody else find that you're really excited about doing a project, and when you start it, your mind's actually thinking about the next one before you finish that? which is mad really. But I think that's just how we crafters are built sometimes, unless it's just me. Perhaps it's just me that feels like that. So many ideas, like you say, and not enough time. Now, the only thing to be mindful of is whether or not you're very particular about it matching either side. So it may just need a little bit more thought. However, whoops, I think I can finish off and make sure it matches both sides. I'm not going to, because I've actually got this in the way, I'm not actually going to join the two. I don't need to. And when I say join the two, I don't need to join one side to the other. Right, that's just going to overfill that. What I would probably do on that, because I can't fit in another size 10, is I'd probably find a little silver size 15 so that it doesn't look so different. So before we actually finish, I'm just going to show you something else, but thoughts? So that's how it looks, and then if we turn it over, you can't actually see any of the stitching on there. It's a really neat way of doing things. It looks nice. It looks nice when you sell it as well. Francis said it's not just me. Oh, well, that's a bonus. Right. Oh, I'll show you on this one. So what I want to show you is if you're doing like the single the single brick stitch, and you actually want to join it the other end, if that makes sense. Let's have a look and see how we do that. So I'll show you an example because you may not know actually what I'm on about. So if you're doing something like this one, and perhaps you want to do it before you glue the bail on, it's a lot easier before you glue the bail on. So you want to actually join your last seed bead up with your first one. That's what we're looking at. So we will pretend that we've gone round in a circle. I need some more seed beads. Francis says it's not just me that's on to the next project. That's a bonus. I can't remember if I said that already. I'm losing my marbles. And Tricia says she loves the edging. Good. Obviously, I'm only doing this starting off with the two because it's almost like starting from scratch. So if you pretend that we've gone all the way around, we've got continuous beads, and I'm showing you how you join from the circle so it looks continuous. Just carry on. Like I say, whilst it's a good idea to put the backing on, I wouldn't, if you want to join it, don't put the bail on until after you've finished it, because it'll make it, you won't be able to join it. Now it is a little bit of fudging, I'm not going to lie, because you've only really got enough space for one more bead. You don't want to overfill it because buckling will occur. So we're doing the last bead. Whoopsie. And then you want to actually join it to the first one. So I'm going to go down the first bead and up through the previous bead, like so. And then if it doesn't quite sit right, then go back down again and then just push your needle underneath the seed bead and go through to the back. And that's how you join them. Now, tying off, I would actually suggest that you tie off, so if we go to this one, what I would suggest you do, I'm not going to actually tie it off on this one because I actually want to put in a little size 15 seed bead there. What I would do is I would push into the foundation and then bring it up from the back and actually push through the seed beads on your bead embroidery and actually tie a knot around the thread in between beads there, and that is your easiest way to avoid having any visible knots showing. So we have covered single brick stitch and how to join it on the edging. We've covered picot stitch with seed beads, picot stitch with seed beads and crystals, and doing a tassel and a loop perhaps as bottom detail. So obviously those are your basics there, and that was the one with all of the crystals. So on this one we've alternated between seed bead picot and crystal picot. So how did you find that? Has that given you some sort of new inspiration to give it a go and try edging some of your pieces? Now, it certainly inspired me watching other videos, because I hadn't really thought about using crystals in the edging before. I really like that, and I really like the idea of adding tassels in a different way to actually adding it in the piece while you're bead embroidering. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed, but probably the best thing to do is to have a practice, cut some circles on some beading foundation. Now I actually have what a Sizzix, I can't think what they're called now, but basically I've got some die cuts, so I've die cut these out. These are really handy. So anyway, I'll leave it with you. I will try and get it on YouTube within the next couple of days as well, but please continue to revisit YouTube. If you could subscribe to my channel, that would be wonderful. And just a reminder that we've got a new giveaway. The new giveaway is that in our Beaders of Beads by Verchiel, let me just put the link in, at Beaders of Beads by Verchiel, new giveaway. I'm going to put it online, new giveaway. Post your makes inspired from any of my YouTube or Facebook tutorials, and pop hashtag giveaway on your post. and it's a monthly giveaway. There you go. So, and also it's a lovely way of us interacting and just putting, perhaps you don't have to put a different twist on it. It could literally be doing the tutorial as it stands. Saba said, it looks pretty to me. It looks like components to put it together in a jewellery piece. It looks like components to put it together. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Sunday, if not before. Take care. Bye.